This is the training that the Sahabas received. This is the training that we need to incorporate into our lives, to read those stories of the Sahabas. I hear young Muslims talk. They say, this society is hard for us. What could have been harder than living in the early days of Islam? What could have been hard? What do you know about Talha standing in front of the Master Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Battle of Uhud, when nobody else was around him and the enemy swarmed around and was shooting arrows? They looked at Talha afterwards, and his hand was mutilated and his body was covered with over 70 wounds. 70 wounds on his entire body. This is love. This is the Sahabas. What about Hazrat Bilal? The suffering that he went through. When he would make his wuzu and uncover his body, people would stare at him and see the scars that were on his back. This is love. This is what Islam is all about. Without those sacrifices, you young people will not make it in this society. It is not the society that is hard for you. It is your acceptance and the practice of Islam. This is what you need in your life. I'm telling you, this is the only way that you can win Allah's pleasure. This is what the Quran says: be mindful of your duties to Allah. Let nothing stand in your way of becoming a spiritual human being. The promised Messiah, alayhi wasalam, had the same kind of companions. The same kind of companions. And we hear on news reports, we read in the newspaper where people talk negatively about Islam. They talk negatively about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We need to show to mankind what true Islam is all about. And we do it with our actions like the early Sahabas did. We do it with our love. We should not be holding workshops on how to relate to each other because you come from Asia and I come from America, or you come from Africa. What's that all about? It's nothing. Our interest and our focus should be on our spiritual development. And if we achieve that, we too can be like the early Sahabas. This is my message to you today, my dear brothers and sisters. There are many, many women who were companions of the Master Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The most famous, of course, was Hazrat Khadija, Raziyallahu anha, who comforted Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam after coming running down from the mountain of Hira into her arms, and she accepting Islam. Then there's another female, Samia, who was the mother of Ammar and Abdullah. Her husband's name was Yasir. And they were persecuted in front of their house in Mecca. They were dragged out of the house. And she was laid down on the ground along with her husband and sons by Abu Jahl. Abu Jahl, the father of ignorance, began to persecute her. And her lips began to move. And he bent down to hear what she was saying, because he asked her to recant, give up Rasulullah. And he bent down and he put his ear, he said, she's saying something. What is she saying? What is these words that she's mumbling? And he heard, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. Abu Jahl was so upset that he took a spear and stabbed Samia in front of her husband. Then he killed her husband, and he killed her son Abdullah, and spared Ammar. This is the life of the Sahabas. I pray that Allah will help us to not to just talk about the Sahabas, but live a life in accordance. Why do you think that so many children are named Bilal? Is it because they come from Abyssinia? Go to Pakistan and see how many Bilals you see. Go to Turkey and see how many people are named Bilal. Go to Indonesia, see how many people are named Bilal. Go to Europe and see how many Muslims are naming their children after Bilal. And the other companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's for spiritual motivation. That's what we need. I like to close my speech with Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Jazakallah.